The fourth studio album from the Canadian punk rock group White Lawn solidifies itself as a slight change in presentation for the group. Although maintaining their punk roots, the group have incorporated an indie style to their sound on their newest release, Paradise. Having appeared on my best albums of 2014 list with Deep Fantasy, I was anticipating what the group was going to do next. I wasn't completely head over heels for their last release, but I was intrigued with their future projects, and I can honestly say without any sort of misguidance that this album is not only one of the best albums I've heard all year, but it has set the benchmark for the rest of the year. And I know saying this a few videos after my King Gizzard and Death Grips reviews may bring about some skepticism, but I cannot recall having as much passion for a particular project as I have anything else I've listened to all this year. One of the biggest appeals this group has is the ability to create well-crafted, heavy guitar-driven music that maintains a high-octane feeling that doesn't lose its appeal in a very compact amount of time, and just when you think it's time for a break, the group doesn't allow any time for rest. Instead, they pick up right where they left off from the previous song and demands that you keep up with their pace, and that's exactly what's delivered here. The freneticness stays the same, the electric guitars maintain their wild and frantic delivery, the bass guitar has a real heaviness that layers the tracks with great grooves, both melodic and bouncy, the drums have an almost thunderous quality to them that are packed to the rafters with unbridled energy, and lead singer Mish Wei delivers every track with gorgeous vocal performances throughout the 10-track project. Although some of the edges may have been smoothed out in comparison to other albums in the White Law's catalogue, what is introduced are more melodic moments that altogether shape the album into one of this year's contenders for Album of the Year according to some publications, and it isn't hard to see why. Opening up on the track Dead Weight, the band sets the tone with the brilliant blend of melodic and rhythmic electric guitars and drums that don't let up once. It's essentially about Mish being tired of being attached to some guy who she basically calls a dead weight and a pound of flesh, and is simply eager to get shot of as quickly as possible and not be destitute to sharing her life with this person. This really is a great opener, and it continues on with the next track, Narcoleptic. Not only do we continue with the melodic guitars, but the bass guitar is given more attention, having a great bounce and groove to it that remains noticeable throughout, and the guitars take a really glassy, crystal-like synth approach that's a real out-of-the-blue yet sweet addition. The song itself reads as someone who's coming off of a drug binge and is determined to get clean as soon as possible. The next song, Below, is without a doubt the song that sticks out above every other track, not only because it starts off in the least punk fashion, it has this high-pitched pick guitar and upper register rhythm going on, but lyrically it's a lot more fuller in comparison to almost every other track on the album. Definitely the most indie song on the album. Mish describes the song as an ode to preserve the beauty of womanhood and a celebration of glamorousness. It really is a beautiful track and one of the album's best songs. The track Kiss Me When I Bleed is a mini vignette about a woman who is in abject, unadulterated love with her man that despite all the warnings given to her by outsiders, she delivers the middle finger and doesn't give a fuck. She's in love and that's that. Again, with the guitar melodies which are given a little distortion in some parts, heavy bass guitar, great rhythms, it's a stellar track. The aptly titled Demented reads as a pretty deranged female who puts her husband on blast for not being on the same level of twisted as she is. Mish goes out of her way to really paint this messed up character, branding her own offspring as dumb and holding a gun to her hubby's head, all the while blaming him for seemingly being in the mess that they're both in. The guitars have this nice ascending and descending melody, the rhythms remain punchy and the small instrumental breaks. I think the melodies do tend to get a little bit drowned out, but that's about it. Also, when compared to the next track, Sister, a song where the lead character actively desires to murder her own sister, conspiring with someone who may be the sister or Mish's character's love interest, this track is way darker. The lyrics have a more visual ugliness to them, a more graphic picture is painted. She dreams about burning her sister alive, bludgeoning her brain into a pulp, dumping her body in the garbage, and what makes it even more disturbing is the second verse with the line, "We were from the same womb, we were from the same good start." This line, along with the pure evil desires spread all over in the lyrics. It's one of the more darker tracks that I've personally heard all year, and with the addition of the line, "I swear I'll miss all of you," that's scary stuff. The next track, Hungry, reads as the plasticity of the people who surround this popular glamour model and is effectively warning her that despite the high life, there are many others out there waiting to be in her shoes, and that the people around her will drop her without any care or concern once her star begins to fade. Back are the glassy electric guitars, light rhythms, and it's a good track, but I think where the standard of this album has been so high at this stage, I guess I don't find myself entirely gravitating to this track as I do everything else. The song I Beg You, which sees the return of the heavy bass bass guitar melody reads as a woman finally on the brink of leaving a man who has consistently charmed his way back into her life, yet now she's finally developed enough sense not to take him back. But for some reason she still finds herself holding back from pulling the trigger and leaving the guy. Thematically, the song is probably the most disappointing. It would have been salvaged by a triumphant ending, which, considering that many tracks on here aren't exactly Cinderella's stories and it fits in context, but I can't see badass Mish Wei being the person to not learn from her mistakes. But that's just me. The penultimate track, Vegas, comes off as a warning to some guy who got with a woman only to end up not only abusing her but also ended up stealing her money once he decided that he had his fair share and bolted. Mish basically saying that in the end the guy will get his comeuppance. When, where, how, who knows, but it certainly won't be pretty. Backed by the frenetic, distorted instrumentation and impassioned vocals, chalk up another great track. And the album closes out on the titular track where Mish wants nothing more than to run away with her significant other and engage in a copious amount of sexual activity. Checking in at the shortest song on the album, it's quick, catchy, doesn't lack anything in terms of energy, and delivers the end to a simply brilliant album. This album went above and beyond for me. I was anticipating what the next project was going to be like, but no way in a dozen lifetimes did I ever expect to love this album as much as I do. It's got everything. Great instrumentation that includes fantastic melodies, the production is top notch, the vocal performances, the lyrical themes, the compact, concentrated, consistent sounds second after second brings me to the conclusion that this, for me, surpassed my expectations and is this year's album to beat. Overall, I score this album a 92 out of 100.